please help me in welcoming Dawit Abarham.
It's nice to be here.
Thank you so much for coming, Dawit.
Thank you for the invitation.
Let's start by getting to know you first. Tell us about Kukulu, what inspired you to start that, and also Qene Technologies, which is a gaming company that you established here.
Okay, so yeah, Dawit Abarham, right? I'm Dawit Abarham. በአማርኛም በእንግሊዝኛም ቀላቅላለሁ. So okay. I basically graduated from Addis Ababa University. I have a BSc in electronic computer engineering. I started the game back when I was in 5th year, right? So we had our final project and I was working on it at the same time. And by the time I was working on it, ራሴን push ለማድረግ, right? I decided to join the ICT competition. And now, all right. So once I actually started working on it, I started to actually develop the skills for game development. As a software engineer, I really didn't really know how to make games. I had a bit of a background in ICOG Labs when I was working on a game project and so on again. I learned as I actually went, as I actually made the product. And now, by the time I graduated, I had a demo game, a demo product. And now, let me tell you the funny thing of how we actually got to establish the company. By first year, as any entrepreneur-minded software engineer, me, Samrait, Balashir, and Henok founded Qene Technologies. And now we wanted it to be the first gaming company in the country. And now you know that there is no gaming company at that time. And now I'll tell you about the challenges. But the first thing that we wanted to do was release the product, get it out there, and now get it moving, get some revenue, see how it can actually go. Now, the first plan, and that amazing Johanna plan of 5 years, say, wasn't 5 years plan, was to get people who want to advertise their products in the game. And now, the biggest plan there was to actually go to the ICT competitions exhibition. So back then, the top 10 ICT competition like የሚያሸንፉ ሰዎች would actually get an exhibition of their own. You would go there, a lot of industry leaders would come, they will see your product, and they will be interested. So that was the plan. Dominum Belen, so the Kukulu stood 6, right? And now I went there to actually exhibition of Yamasai Kukulu, and a shocking thing happened. There were only 5 booths, right? So they had decided that year that they were only going to show the top 5 people who won. So it was like a wreck. I was like, wow, this was everything that I worked for. This was the plan. So what did I do? I just brought a chair, right? I grabbed one, and I cleared it, and I just stood there with a booth. And said, I'm the 6th. So, in the last Narak, a lot of people came, saw us, and one of them was a person from Gabea. They were a marketing director. And they invited us to actually go there, right? So that was a clue that we followed up on, a lead. Now when we actually went there, I actually personally went there to take a course in mobile Android, MMR. And Amadou, the founder, mentioned Yona Botale that he knew the CEO of Belcash. And that's something that we were trying to do. We were trying to actually integrate some kind of a payment into the system. So I was like, oh, really? Okay. Can you please introduce me to him? And Amadou was like, why? Oh, I'm like, I made a game. I want to put some in-app purchases into the game. And when we actually got talking, he saw it, and he was interested in funding. So that's how we actually got the initial investment. So that's basically how we founded Qene, and that's how we actually got rolling.
So it's really pretty inspiring how he established Qene Technologies, right? Because if it was a lot of us, so they're given 5 booths, we wouldn't be thinking of, okay, I'm going to set up my own 6 booths. So it's really great how you turned that no into a yes. So my next question will be around the challenges you face setting up this game or this gaming company. So let's get into that.
All right, so basically the biggest challenge in an industry that doesn't exist is finding the talent that you can actually use to actually make something that you want to make. So when we started, we were from a software engineering background, right? We didn't have many people who worked on the artistic side of the game, the music and so on. We tried to partner up with people, but they weren't really motivated to join something that doesn't exist yet, because it's really risky. If you quit your architecture job and join an industry that doesn't exist, I mean, what does it mean a year later or 5 years later? You don't want to take that risk. So We had a hard time. And then we basically tried to actually outsource some of the modeling and animation to Kenya, South Africa, and so on. And then after some time, after a while, when we actually started to show our work, a lot of hobbyists who really enjoyed doing that on their part-time started to come to us and started to actually want to show their interest to join us. And now, day by day, we actually grew, and now we got to a point where we could do everything in-house. So far, there's been at least with Asramista, which actually participated in making the game. And without them, none of this would have actually been possible. But the biggest challenge was actually getting the people to work with you. The second biggest challenge was, so the, in an industry that doesn't exist, how do you actually validate your market, right? So if I wanted to go to an investor and say, hey, this actually works, they're definitely going to ask for data that I don't have because the industry doesn't exist. Now that was something that was a big challenge. So we had to find an investor who actually saw the vision, and we were able to actually, if we hadn't made that small product that was impressive enough for them to actually go ahead with the investment, it would have been very hard. So the biggest two challenges, I guess.
That's pretty great. It's really good to hear that Kukulu is homegrown fully. And if you've seen the game, you really relate to the context in that, jumping through the Jebanas and going down the Netalas. It was pretty exciting to play, so that's great on your side. I'm going to open up the floor for some questions from the audience, so get your questions ready. My last question would be, how were you able to face the challenges, and what does the future hold for Kukulu and Qene Technologies?
All right, so basically I would say perseverance, right? We stuck through it. That's what we did. No? There were so many times where we could have just say, you know what, this is not going to work. This is not for us. Maybe we can try it maybe 5 years, 10 years from now, where things are more, inviting. But that's not what we did. We decided to push through. No, I think it's the case in any industry that you want to join, whether existing or non-existing. And the biggest thing that started to actually drive us is we were in it for the purpose of it. So our biggest, in the future, Mahan and Qene Technologies, when we actually make the next games and when we actually produce these animations and design aggregation, the biggest thing that drives us is the huge underrepresentation of our culture, of African culture in the world. Coming from Ethiopia, you'd be probably the proudest people in the world. Sorry. But you have this amazing history that you get to know about once you get to a certain age, when you start to read about your history, when you start to look at history books. Until that time, you have this amazing experience of the Western world, where you have your heroes from there, where you have people you admire from there. Amazing history concentrated in this amazing animations that you see from there. And you kind of grow up thinking maybe I should speak English or I suck, maybe I should have been white. I should have been born in the States or something. And I'm sure there are many kids who grow up in Africa regretting that they were born in Africa. And it's not until they actually learn their history that they actually start feeling proud about themselves and proud about who they are, about being black, right? And that's what we try to do. So if you see the game, we're trying to make it beautiful in an African way. And as a game developer, or as any artist who actually is inspired with Africa, right, with an Ethiopian or an African artist, they're most likely to create something that's African, regardless of where their inspiration comes, especially if they're older, with our ages, right? So if we actually make something beautiful that people can actually look at and say, hey, this came out of Africa, this came out of Ethiopia, that is bound to make them proud about themselves. And that would definitely go on to make them create beautiful things, regardless of where they are. So we want to create a future generation of kids who say, hey, I'm from Ethiopia, and great things come out of Ethiopia, and we want to be one of those people who make those great things, instead of thinking, oh, we're born in Ethiopia, so we have to go somewhere else to actually create something awesome. And that was the initial motivation in Kukulu as well. So we wanted to make a product that was the best game in the world, but also Ethiopian and African. So that's basically our future goals as well. We'll be planning to make a lot more games that actually are awesome. They're probably going to be storming the world, and they're actually from Ethiopia.
That's pretty great. I'm sure playing the game, you'd feel so proud. If you haven't gotten Kukulu yet, please go to the Play Store and download it right now. So now let's move on to questions from you. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, now would be a great time. Is it available for iOS devices? And the second question was, how far has Kukulu Games, how far has Kukulu game come in terms of success, in terms of achievements? What has Kukulu Games achieved?
So for the first question, iOS is coming soon. Sorry for the iPhone users. Okay, we're not iPhone haters. We just decided to go Android because it's mostly the market is Android in Ethiopia and Africa, but we are definitely coming to that as well. The traction is actually going. So we had a soft launch at first. We tried to optimize the game, try to see where we can actually change things. We had a lot of feedback, both from people and automatically as well. And we tried to update it. So it's been updated like 9 times already. But now we have around 9,000 users, and out of those users, so we have implemented an in-app purchase system, right, that works in Ethiopia with your airtime, right? So you can actually buy currency in the game. You can actually buy the full version, and we're up to a point where we're getting up to 500 birr per day now. So we're trying to grow the business as well, trying to optimize the balance of the games so that we can actually make, I don't know, well, how many of you know that Candy Crush makes $2 million in a day? Right? So that's what we're going for, basically.
Okay. I just want to mention that Kukulu also won an award recently in South Africa, if you want to say something on that.
So congrats Ethiopia, by the way. So it was an African competition, basically around 300 competitors were there, and there were around 39 countries. So we basically won the Apps Africa Award 2018 for Best Entertainment Solution. All right, okay. It was a big challenge, really. I mean, the finalists were not people that we thought we could actually compete with. There was this Vodafone Music iTunes kind of an app which had millions of downloads in South Africa. There was this huge book app in Nigeria, and we actually there was a product in Ethiopia as well, kind of an entertainment and music app. And we were really happy that we can actually represent Ethiopia and win as Ethiopia. So that was really awesome.
That's pretty great. Big round of applause for that.